Hey, thanks for tuning in. We're starting a series here called Surfing in the Spirit, Riding the Waves of Life. I've been serving the Lord for over 30 years and surfing for over 40 years. And believe it or not, I've seen some comparisons between the two, and I want to share them with you. In Matthew, there's a story about Jesus and his students, disciples. The students were in a boat, and Jesus is walking towards the boat on the water. The disciples see him, and they're not sure if it's him or not. And Peter looks out and says, "Lord, if that is you, then bid me to come." And Jesus says, "Come." So Peter gets out of the boat and starts walking on the water towards Jesus. It's a fantastic story. If somebody wants to surf, the very first thing that they have to do is they have to be willing to get wet. You can't go surfing unless you're willing to get wet. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'd like to go surfing." They stand on the shore and they look out and they watch and they're like, "Wow, it looks fun," but they're not really willing to get in there. And it's the same thing with serving the Lord. The very first lesson is you have to be willing to step into what God has for you. Just like Peter, he was willing. Now, as the story goes on, of course, many of us know that he began to sink, and the Lord reached out and grabbed him and saved him from sinking. But at least he was willing. You got to give him credit for that. And there's something about people that are willing to get in there, willing to step into what God has for them. So I encourage you, be willing to get wet in the Spirit. Be willing to dive into what God has for you as God bids you to come in whatever direction He is telling you. Be willing. God doesn't violate our wills. He doesn't knock down the door and demand us to step into what He has for us. He'll speak to us about it, but it's up to us to have a willing spirit and step into and get wet in the Spirit. Step into what God has for us. So I encourage you, be a believer that is willing to get wet, willing to step out, willing, as the Lord bids you, to step into what He has for you. Until next time, continue to ride the wave of hope found in Christ Jesus. Lord bless you, and Lord keep you.